Okay, so, Joe, you are playing Shaanxi today? Am I pronouncing that right? I'm not very familiar with how to pronounce that one.
Shanzi, as far
Shaanxi. Yeah.
as I know. Though people, native speakers, feel free to correct me as always.
Hmm. And I'll be
But
playing. Go ahead.
no, I thought it would be interesting warlord to talk about, interesting position, and I'm close enough to you that if we're going to try and rebuild the Qing Empire, right? That was the
Yes.
goal.
Yeah, and that will at one point demand your capitulation, but all good things require some sacrifices.
Uncharacteristically, our warlord here will accept.
Yeah, I'm allowing hot joins. So for whatever reason, I'm able to quickly snap you up. You can start playing as someone else.
Okay,
Um, you know,
I
I
took over as the bad guys.
yeah, perhaps the Guanxi click down here, which would be interesting. I always thought it was kind of funny that it's called a clique because the only other time I ever heard the word clique is when they're trying to talk about groups of bullies in school or whatever. So I don't know
Well, we can
anything
talk
about that.
about groups of bullies in 1920s China.
Yeah, yeah, let's do it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start us up now. Historical focuses are off.
Ooh,
That does not mean that China will, or excuse me, that does not mean that Japan will not beat the hell out of us. It just means that they will probably beat the hell out of us. Um, so let's see what happens, I guess.
yeah, I have to admit, I don't know much about the restoration of Puyi in this game as a mechanic, so I'm glad you're taking Menchukuo.
I'll be honest, I have not played Manchukuo before, and so this is going to be potentially a very short and bloody experience for both of us.
Yeah, probably, unfortunately. Because I briefly looked at what I have access to here as Shanzi, and it's not much.
Yeah,
So
that's the
when
standard Chinese focus tree, if my memory serves me correct. I think I've reviewed this expansion actually, so I should know that one. But they should just have the normal Chinese default tree there. And oh boy, there's a lot of Japanese guys in my country already. I knew that there were going to be, but they're just there's more than I expected.
they're your protectors, remember?
Oh
You're
yeah,
you're the client state here.
oh yeah. Thank you, Japan. I appreciate your nice cavalry divisions on my frontier.
Wow. So I haven't played as Shanzi, obviously, because
Mm.
I haven't played this game in like 6 months, anyways. I can't even build factories.
You
They're
can't
maxed
build
out.
factories. Your factories are maxed out. Oh boy.
This is gonna be good. I have
I
to actually go through the focus tree.
and wait a second. Is my oh okay? I think the general is just a relative because there's this. He's got the same name but just a different last name, which I think in this game they reverse the order of the names as opposed to it being family name first. I think it's family name last for us anglicized folks. So I think that this is just a relative. That's interesting. I don't know too much about the Chinese in the period. That's Joe's area of expertise. But
Again, I'm specifically I deal with up to about 1905 for my actual research. Although I have taught this stuff before, so I've read all the latest literature on it. But you'll have to forgive me for some lapses here and there, especially when it comes to the specifics of the Qing Emperor, because that's who we're dealing with here, right? This is
yeah.
the last Qing Emperor who was deposed 1911. I mean, technically, there he was already off on the sidelines before, right? But actually shuffled out of China into
Hmm.
Manchuria, and now this game lets us play the this strange fantasy of having him retake the reins of power, break free from the Japanese oppression, and then storm out of Manchuria once again to reestablish the Qing over China. So that's Hearts of Iron doesn't cut any corners, does it?
That's kind of fun. I've been playing a lot of Total War Three Kingdoms recently, and so I was like, oh yeah, there's a China unification option. Now I can just do that in 2 games. Um, yeah, give us a moment here as we get tooled up. I'm gonna have to figure out what the uh, China first option is. I don't know if it's called that.
Yeah, your tree is much larger than mine. I have two options: political points or economic points.
Claim
So,
Mandate of Heaven. That looks a lot like what I should be doing.
yeah, let me take a look at it too. I want to see your focus.
Yeah. Okay.
Mission to Germany, U.S. Collaborate with the Japanese. Yes, okay.
So a lot of that seems to be more diplomatic stuff, but you're not necessarily locked into a type of government if you do that, which is interesting because oh look, there's your boy Chenault, which is interesting because there are a lot of the other countries will have these things locked, and these are seem to also be locked if you're not if you do certain things. But the main Chinese government one is over here on the left, where you get to say, okay, right here is the I'm going to kowtow to China, kowtow to Japan option, or I'm going to reform the Qing Empire. Screw you, Japan. I'm getting a lot of research options actually. I guess that makes sense because I only start with 2, but I'm kind of impressed by the sheer amount of research options that I have here. It's pretty strong actually. I'm not going to claim to be super meta in terms of what the strongest Hearts of Iron 4 state is based on their focus trees, but there's a lot of interesting options here. I could be a very benevolent ruler in terms of a Qing Empire that's very nice to the people around it, which is normally not how a lot of these more... I'm not sure if it counts the Empire as being fascistic or not. I don't think it would, but, you know, it is an autocracy. It's possible.
Yeah, it depends. I've seen some things in this game. Maybe it's changed, but a lot of countries that were, you know, maybe not fascist in the legal definition, or not fascist in the way that like Italy was or Nazi Germany was, but they're still authoritarian right-wing governments with ties to the conservative powers, which you would generally call fascist, are labeled as non-aligned. Like if you look at Portugal, that one last I checked was non-aligned, even though Antonio Salazar, you know, wasn't a fascist. He was still an authoritarian dictator with those kinds of leanings. So it's
close enough
to see how the game, you know, draws a line at fascist or not.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison to make in this case. I'm taking a look at some of these trees, and they're just very interesting. All of the unit trees. Yeah, the fascists in this game are, I guess, just authoritarian is probably the better box to put that in. I'm going to start the thing off if you're ready. I don't know how much stuff you had to do.
Yeah, I was done 10 minutes ago. I got on the one button, and that's all the options I have.
Yeah, there's not too much for me to do either. It reminds me of my time attempting to reform the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And there's like 3 things for you to do. You don't have many resources. I can tell you certainly I'm going to be going with the battle plan doctrine, whatever the one is called, where you it's very trench warfare-y, because I don't have anything else. I don't have I do have a crap ton of men, but I've seen what World War II can do. I know that you can run out. I don't want to do that. I don't have a lot of, you know, auxiliary support things. I don't have a lot of trucks or the infrastructure to make trucks. I don't have a lot of artillery. So I'm going to do trenches, and we're going to dig a lot of trenches, and we're going to beat the Japanese with trenches, I think.
I feel like a defensive strategy will be what we have to do for most of this war, because, I mean, I don't even have a lot of manpower. I have 200,000 people.
Well, what you do have is a very strong defensive line. I would recommend maybe throwing some forts up around your borders, because those are hills, a lot of mountains. If you do a few lines of defense, you can just shred people coming in. I'll tell you that before I played as an Ireland that had to fight against Britain, and just moving into Scotland, into the Highlands of Scotland there, you can just set up a defensive line, and if you have the Grand Battle Plan Doctrine, where they build trenches, to just good luck. You can't get through. It's I mean, like, I didn't have any kind of mechanized support. I think I might have had a few planes, but if you have men there with artillery, some anti-tank guns, that they can just basically hold out more or less indefinitely as long as the supply line remains open.
You were asking a lot of material for Shanxi.
Yeah, this is gonna be rough. This is gonna be rough. I'm already recognizing that this is going to be probably kind of a rough game. It's gonna make both of us look like chumps. Anyone from Wargamer, if you're watching this video, this is not indicative of my skill at the game. Please invite me back to talk more about Hearts of Iron 4. I'm not bad at it, I swear.
My defense will be, I wanted to talk about what's his name here, the Yan Shishan, the warlord, and that's why I picked him.
He does have a very fun image. He looks like a kindly grandfather. I don't know anything about Yan Shishan, but that's what he looks like from my impression of him here. It's probably extremely far off. He was probably horrible, if that's what the vibe I'm getting.
I mean, in the realm of warlords, not a lot of them are great people.
Really?
But, I mean, I know, surprising. It's my hot take. The warlords tend to be morally ambiguous individuals. Wabam. But he had some interesting policies, actually. And in the 20s and stuff, he was one of those guys that was trying to reorganize things and trying to shake up society a bit. And, I mean, this is all within the... You know, he is still the authoritarian leader of his little clique here, but he was like challenging the power of the upper classes during and after the revolution, right? So he was trying to make his army recognize that the military is subservient to the people. I mean, that's really interesting.
Seems very I guess progressive would be the word for it at the time. I don't know what else to call it, because I don't want to call it necessarily a leftist point of view when he's right there next to Mao Zedong, but you know.
Yeah, I read even an article a while ago that someone was suggesting that, you know, oh, like the stuff he was doing in the 20s is what they ended up doing in Yan'an in the 30s with trying to get the soldiers to participate more fully in the everyday workings of running the state. And I think it's, you know, I don't know if that's a bit of a stretch, but I like the idea that this warlord period that we really see as a crazy...
I'll go ahead and pause for that.
That's me. Like the warlord period is just like, you know, chaos and lawlessness and random, right? But you do see the different groups trying to cement new policies and trying to change the way the countries run, and a lot of that's coming from foreign influence, right? These people were trained. Often the military ones are trained outside of China, and they're bringing this information back and trying to merge it with the Chinese way of running things that they're used to. So it's fascinating.
I've been looking at some things, and I'm getting increasingly alarmed with my choice here. So, for you as Shanxi, look up in your top left corner with your war support and your stability. Your war support isn't very high, but your stability is pretty solid, I would say. Like, you know, if you get into a scrap, you're going to be fine. If you click on Manchukuo and take a look at what the stability and war support of it look like, it's not good. Sitting pretty
You have
at
2% stability?
And 0% war support. I've never seen it this low before with any other state. This is absurd. Okay. Let me know when you pick that focus, and I'll keep you going. I don't want to rush us through the foci, because they are pretty important decisions right now.
Again, I have two options, and this only option is industrial investment. I get another factory, so I can have 3 factories instead of 2 factories. So I'm clicking on that one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, like I don't have many options at the moment. I'm trying to train a single division, and I don't have enough guns, so it's happening.
Yeah, I don't know how many factories you have total. I have 3 factories total. 2 of them are civilian factories, and one of them is a military factory, which is building bolt-action rifles with bayonets. That is all I have.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I got 3 factories, 3 civilian factories, and 2 military.
Uh-oh. our first things are happening. Let's take a look at what's
know.
going on here. Italy took Ethiopia. That was fast. Ethiopia
Pretty fast for them,
capitulated.
isn't it?
Yeah, that was actually. We're not even a full 3 months into the game, and they've already snapped them up. Seems like Italy is pretty capable this time. Yugoslavia recognizes Soviet Union. That could be interesting. One of the things that we'll be doing in our downtime during our wars over here is taking a look at what things look like over in Europe, just because of the strange things that happen, and it makes for a good color commentary, I believe. And the flashpoints early on in the game are going to be Spain, mostly, in and around Spain, because the Spanish Civil War should break out basically at any moment. And it's always interesting to see what happens there, especially with the new expansions that can fracture Spain into 4 different parts, which can really end up painting the picture for what Europe looks like, and therefore what the support for us over here looks like, because a lot of our... I can speak for Manchukuo. A lot of my focuses are either focused on the big European powers or the U.S. So, things will happen, certainly. The fact that there is a carrier focus for me is very ambitious, because I don't know if there's any single way that I'm going to get to build any ships this game.
Yeah, I don't think we have the wherewithal or probably the gamey expertise to do a Manchukuo conquers North America.
Well, we'll see. We have a few hours here, and if this game doesn't end horribly, we could continue this one another time. Yeah, I'm not going after North America, but we'll see what happens. There were games where I did not intend to do a lot of things, and then suddenly Mexico went fascist and joined the Axis, and so you have to go cart your people across to Central America and go kick the hell out of the Mexicans. Strange things happen. So, yeah, it's not directly China related, as we promised, but there's a lot of things happening off to the periphery that will end up having effects on us, which is interesting. I hope that our trade lines stay open. I'm going to try to maintain a good relationship with the United States, just because they frequently don't seem to go fascist, as opposed to some of these other countries that have fascist options. For example, the UK, almost every single option I've seen them take has been to go fascist, which is very funny, and I'm not going to say anything further about that. Yeah, topical. It looks like the U.S. right now is doing the Neutrality Act, which means that it's not going to go down the route of super racist or communist. So it looks like they're probably going to go down the historical route there, which is good for us. We don't want a U.S. becoming fascist and coming over here and beating the hell out of us with the Japanese. There's no way we would survive that.
Yeah, don't you have an option to court the U.S.? Wouldn't that be something we could do if we're trying to show the rest of the world that we want to not be a Japanese puppet? Maybe
that's one of my earliest focuses, and that's the one I'm going to do next. It is... Actually, it says I can't do that yet. One of the following must be true. United States exists, has not capitulated, at peace at Manchukuo. One of the following must be true. Oh, their opinion of me has to go up. I'm gonna have to go schmooze.
Well, I mean, if Puyi started wandering around and subtly talking about independent moves for Manchukuo and trying to repair some relations with China and maybe showing some disdain for some of the things that Japan is doing in Manchukuo, i.e. entirely controlling its economic and military and political development, maybe some people will start perking up their ears. Decisions
available. Oh, there's some interesting things here. I'm going to pause for a moment. Several things happened all at once, so I can't do a mission to the U.S. or anything yet. I can do it with the Japanese because they already like me because I'm a subject of theirs. I am not going to do that because I'm going to try to fight the Japanese later. Don't tell them that, but I'm going to try to do that. I can also try to buddy-buddy with Germany, which is interesting, and I'm not going to do that.
Don't lead where I cannot follow.
Uh, okay. So I'm going to probably do some research into industry. I'm going to have to build some more factories here shortly. And it looks like I now have some banditry options that I missed a minute ago to help fight against bandits. I know that during this time, because of all the warring factions and whatnot in China, there were a lot of bandit-y groups around, and so there are options for me to fight against them. I don't know if you can see the screen on another monitor of yours there, Joe, but I'm looking at my options here, and I can deploy my divisions to hunt down bandits, which is interesting. And pardon me, and I'm doing that right now, which is interesting.
So a lot of these bandits were, remnants of the Chinese warlord that controlled Manchuria before the 31 takeover. Other warlord soldiers who were fighting in like a mercenary capacity up here, and a lot of North Korean just Korean, my bad, Korean freedom fighters from all up and down the peninsula who were anti-Japanese, who came to Manchuria to fight and train under the warlords and the fighters here. So you have some interesting people you're cracking down on.
Yeah,
they're your friends.
If they're anti-state reactionaries, I can't have them around. That is the end of the story, basically. Oh, there is a man who will help me build forts that I have just acquired, and I'm going to use him to help me build forts. I can also build some factories. I'm going to be slow with this because I don't have much of these, so I have to play this smart. So I'm going to throw some factories up in Liaoning and Liaotong. Thank you very much for your factory spaces. Something else I want to note here, I'm going to start the game up again, but something else I want to note is that the infrastructure of the area is terrible. I'm going to compare this to somewhere like the United States. Like, look at the United States and some of the more heavily trafficked areas. Like, here's Pennsylvania sitting at 8. New York is also at 8. Most of the states are at least 5 or above. U.S. passes Neutrality Act. Yeah, okay. They're not going to help us. So that's what it looks like in the U.S. In some of the southern parts of China, it's like 5, 5, 5. A lot of 5s, but some worse in some areas. Something is about to happen to... Oh, bandit raids. That's fun. Great. Cool. But up here in Manchukuo, there's 4, 4, 4, 3, 4. What this means, essentially, is that it's going to be, A, harder for our people to move around up here, because the terrain is bad and there are not many roads. And B, it will be hard for people to be supplied properly here. So say, for example, Japan comes up here and starts trying to get frisky, starts trying to attack me. This is interesting. They've put 21 divisions in a single province right next to the Soviets, which I guess tracks. They're probably less concerned about me than they are about the Soviets. In that easternmost province of Korea, that's where they have put it.
So you think they'd be up in your territory because they had the Kuomintang army was in Manchuria.
Yeah,
so
and
on the border.
I don't think that I think that Japan in this game has the mentality of, I don't really care what happens to you, so I'm going to go defend our territory here. Oh. Which, maybe they heard that I was planning on leaving them at some point. Maybe that's what that was.
It's all the more reason to station an army within your territory.
Yeah. It looks like the Japanese are going to be going fascist still, so that means that they're not going to be striking against the Soviets significantly, probably immediately. But that could be wrong. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, it's interesting how the game is now treating this, because Manchukuo being its own state with its own path is part of its expansion, right?
Yes.
Like,
so
before it was a puppet, right? So
I am a puppet right now.
Okay. So years ago I remember playing as Japan, and Manchukuo was something that I directly controlled, which tracks better than it being an independent player, honestly.
One of my bridges got blown up. Great. Thanks, bandits. Yeah, it blew up my infrastructure in one of my areas here. It looks like Heilongjiang, which is this middle region here. Just because there's bandits around and they hate me. It's fun. Love it. Love it. This was a terrible country to pick. I don't know why I did this. I'm going... The second anything bad happens, I'm going to get destroyed. But you know what they say. You live, you learn. You laugh, you love, whatever the name of the song is. Okay, so up here on the side of my screen, you can see my status as a protectorate, which is... I'm basically the lowest kind of protectorate, vassal, dominion, whatever you want to call it, I could be right now. Where the Japanese, if they exerted a lot of influence, could probably annex me outright. I don't think they're much interested in that right now. Oh, here we go. Spanish Civil War is booting up here. I'll take a look at that in a moment. But, oh boy, there's a lot of things happening all at once. So, I can basically wriggle my way to more autonomy with the Japanese if I kowtow to them. But I'm not planning on doing that, so I'm going to be just severing my ties with them entirely at some point. And we'll see how badly they kick the hell out of me when that happens. It's probably going to be pretty ugly, because I don't have... I mean, I have horses. That's all I have. I have horses and some guys with guns. That's it. Meanwhile, the Japanese down here have some armor divisions, have some mechanized divisions. They have a navy. They have planes. I don't have anything. I have some guys with guns. That's about it.
So, speaking of diplomatic options and decisions, I was looking through mine for the first time, and it seems I can kick off the Xi'an incident. Have you heard of that?
Tell us about the Xi'an incident.
Briefly, that is the kidnapping, vaguely, of Chiang Kai-shek to get him to stop focusing on taking out the communists and instead turn his attention towards the looming Japanese threat and taking it seriously.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's a lot more complicated than that, but that's the very basic. So I can invite Chiang Kai-shek for a meeting.
Does it say invite or does it say kidnap?
No, it says invite. So I'm going to invite, and we'll let... oh, he refuses to meet me. Well, someone had a textbook. Well, it wasn't me who did it anyways, so maybe the other, that's why he's suspicious.
Interesting. We'll be seeing some scuffles down there soon, maybe. Let's go, oh, okay. Multiple things. Leadership purges in the Soviet Union. Renewal of the Rome Protocols. Interesting. I think that the Italians might be going on their own in this one, which is very interesting. That could lead to some strange things happening over there. Okay. Alright, there's an option for me to already start climbing my way out of serfdom to the Japanese, but it's... I don't want to tick them off yet, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start the game up again. I don't know if you selected your option yet.
Yeah, don't worry, fine. I'm actually going to try and get myself closer to the nationalists because, you know, inviting them into a trap didn't work for some reason.
It's a shame.
Yeah, no coercion for me.
Chiang Kai-shek, what are you doing right now, bud? It looks like he's focusing on mining. That's fun. They have the same invite foreign investors option that I do. I don't know. I can't see if they've picked anything, though, because I don't have enough people to make an espionage branch with, though. So, I don't know what's going on with them.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be modeling the espionage systems at all in this game, will we?
Probably not, but we'll see. So, yeah, we can't see if the nationalists have decided to go more fascistic or democratic, or if that's even going to be relevant. For all we know, the nationalists could succumb to the evils of Tibet, for all we know. Could happen. Probably won't, but it could. Let's take a look at the Spanish Civil War while we have a chance. So the fascist nationalist Spanish troops seem to be doing a number on the Spanish government here, which I don't think has gone full Republican yet. Yeah, it's still democratic, but it's not the communist government yet. The
That's
Olympics
fine. That's
happened.
the Republican. That's Republican government.
Uh,
You had the
right.
sub factions, the populists, and the all the different types of communist and socialists coming out of the woodwork, right? But the elected government was Republican.
Right. Well, that split is going to happen here shortly because how the Spanish Civil War works now is that the Spain will initially split into nationalist and regular Spain, and then um, regular Spain will just appear as whatever one the quote unquote player selected. There's no player in this one, so. But after it breaks apart, then the democratic Spanish government and the anarchist communist groups will fight each other. Like those become two different states, and then the nationalists and the phalangists break off. Excuse me, the nationalists are the phalangists. The nationalists and the Carlists, who are Spanish monarchists, break off and start fighting each other. It becomes just a real